My name is Kestra, and I am 28 years old. Last month, I thought I knew my family completely. Then my 17-year-old sister demanded $10,000 for prom expenses, and when I refused, she rallied our parents against me. The family group chat exploded with accusations and guilt trips. So I closed our joint savings account that held $50,000, money I had been contributing to for years while they spent freely. What happened next shattered everything I believed about blood loyalty and revealed a betrayal so deep it changed our family forever. Before we dive into this wild family revenge story, let me know where you are watching from. Are you Team Kestra, or do you think family should always come first? Hit that like button if you have ever dealt with entitled family members, and do not forget to subscribe because this story has more twists than a soap opera. Trust me, you will want to see how this family drama unfolds and how sweet revenge tastes when served ice cold. The morning everything fell apart started like any other Tuesday. I was reviewing quarterly reports at my marketing firm when my phone buzzed with a text from my sister Melody. The message was simple enough: "Hey, can we talk about prom funding? I have some ideas." I should have known better. Melody never approached anything with subtle requests. She was the type who asked Dad for a car by showing him brochures of BMWs. But I was feeling generous that day, so I called her during my lunch break. "Kestra." Perfect timing. So, prom is coming up in 6 weeks, and I have been planning the most amazing night ever. But here is the thing: I need $10,000 to make it happen. I nearly choked on my coffee. 10,000? For one night? Melody, that is more than some people spend on their entire wedding. Do not be so dramatic. Listen to what I have planned. First, there is the dress. I found this gorgeous custom Vera Wang that is only $3,000. Then hair and makeup with the celebrity stylist who did those influencers for the Met Gala, that is $800. The limo? I want the stretch Hummer with the hot tub, that is $1,200 for the night. And then there is the pre-party at the country club, the after-party yacht rental, and professional photography. It all adds up, but it is going to be legendary. Melody, this is insane. Prom is supposed to be fun, not a financial burden that could pay for a semester of college. Her tone shifted immediately from excited to manipulative. I cannot believe you are being like this. Everyone else in my class is spending big money. Do you want me to be embarrassed? Do you want me to look poor compared to my friends? You can have a beautiful prom for $500. There are plenty of gorgeous dresses that do not cost more than a used car. 500? Are you kidding me? That would not even cover my shoes. Kestra, I thought you understood what family means. I thought you cared about my happiness. The guilt trip was classic Melody, but I held firm. I do care about your happiness, but I also care about teaching you the value of money. $10,000 is completely unreasonable. She hung up on me. Within an hour, my phone was buzzing constantly. First came Mom's call. Kestra Elizabeth, what is this I hear about you refusing to help your sister with prom? She is upstairs crying her eyes out because her big sister would not support her dreams. Mom, she wants $10,000. For one night. That is not supporting dreams, that is enabling delusion. Money has never been an issue for our family. You make good money, and we have always helped each other out. Remember when we paid for your college when you could not get enough financial aid? The manipulation was immediate and sharp. They had helped with college, but I had paid back every penny with interest over 5 years. I paid you back in full, Mom. Every dollar. That is not the point. The point is family takes care of family. Your sister has never asked for anything like this before. That was a lie. Melody had asked for a $15,000 car for her 16th birthday, $5,000 for a spring break trip to Europe, and countless smaller amounts for shopping sprees and weekend getaways. She had never been told no. I am not giving her $10,000 for prom, Mom. That is final. Well, I hope you can live with disappointing your baby sister. Some big sister you turned out to be. Then came Dad's call 30 minutes later. His approach was different. More businesslike, more calculated. Kestra, your mother and I have been talking, and we think you are being unreasonable about this prom situation. Melody is only going to have one senior prom, and she deserves to have the best night possible. Dad, $10,000 is not reasonable for anyone, let alone a 17-year-old. Here's what we are going to do. Your mother and I will contribute $5,000, and we expect you to match that. It is only fair since you make more money than we do now. The expectation in his voice made my stomach turn. I am not contributing $5,000 to this ridiculous plan. Kestra, I am disappointed in you. We raised you to care about family, and right now you are acting selfish and cruel. Your sister looks up to you, and you are crushing her dreams over money that you can easily afford. This is not about the money I can afford. This is about teaching responsibility and reasonable expectations. Well, your mother and I disagree. We think you are being petty and jealous because you never had a prom like this. That hit differently than the other guilt trips. I had never had a prom like Melody was planning because my family had not offered to spend thousands of dollars on my prom. I had worn a $200 dress from the mall and been perfectly happy about it. The family group chat started blowing up that evening. Melody had crafted a message that painted me as the villain who was trying to ruin the most important night of her life out of spite and jealousy. Mom and Dad immediately backed her up with messages about family loyalty and supporting each other through important moments. Extended family members started chiming in. Aunts and uncles who had not spoken to me in months suddenly had opinions about my selfishness. Cousins were sharing stories about their own proms and how family had supported them. The pressure was intense and coordinated. But something about the whole situation felt wrong. The immediate rally, the practiced guilt trips, the way everyone had their talking points ready, it felt orchestrated. So I decided to do something that would either prove my suspicions wrong or reveal something much darker about my family. I logged into the joint savings account that I had been contributing to for the past 8 years. It was supposed to be for family emergencies and shared expenses. My parents had access, and I had been putting in $500 every month religiously. The balance should have been around $50,000. The balance was $12,000. I scrolled through the transaction history with growing horror. Withdrawals for Melody's shopping trips. Cash advances for family vacations I had not been invited on. Transfers to accounts I did not recognize. 8 years of my savings had been systematically drained while I continued contributing like a fool. My hands were shaking as I realized the truth. This was not about prom money. This was about the last accessible funds in the account, and they needed me to contribute more so they could continue their spending spree. I sat in my apartment that night staring at 8 years of bank statements spread across my coffee table like evidence in a crime scene. Every month, $500 from my account to our family savings. Every month, hundreds or thousands disappearing into purchases I had never approved or even known about. The Vera Wang dress Melody mentioned? She had already bought it 3 months ago. The country club pre-party? Already paid for and planned. The yacht rental? Booked and confirmed. They were not asking me to fund her prom dreams. They were asking me to reimburse them for expenses they had already incurred using money I had saved for our family's future. My phone kept buzzing with family group chat messages, but I ignored them all. I needed to think clearly, and the constant guilt trips were clouding my judgment. Instead, I started documenting everything. Screenshots of transactions, dates of withdrawals, amounts that coincided with family events I had not been included in. The pattern was clear and devastating. Every time I had declined to join a family vacation because of work or other commitments, they had gone anyway and used our joint savings to upgrade their accommodations. The cruise to Alaska I had missed due to a work conference? They had used $3,000 from our account to book premium dining packages and shore excursions. The weekend getaway to Napa Valley for Mom and Dad's anniversary? $2,000 for wine tastings and spa treatments. But the most painful discovery was a recurring monthly transfer of $200 to an account labeled Melody College Fund. For 3 years, they had been taking money from our joint savings to create a separate college fund for my sister while I continued contributing, believing I was helping build something for all of us. I called my best friend Rachel at 10:30 that night. She answered on the first ring, probably hearing something in my voice that scared her. "Kestra? What happened?" "My family has been stealing from me for years, and I just found out because they want me to give them more money for my sister's prom." "What do you mean stealing? How much money are we talking about?" "Rachel, I have been putting $500 a month into a joint family savings account for 8 years. The balance should be around $50,000. There are $12,000 left." "Holy shit. Kestra, that is nearly $40,000. What did they spend it on?" As I walked Rachel through the bank statements, reading transaction after transaction of unauthorized withdrawals and transfers, I could hear her getting angrier on my behalf. But I felt strangely calm. The shock had worn off, and I was moving into a different headspace entirely. "So what are you going to do?" Rachel asked. "I am going to close the account tomorrow morning and transfer the remaining $12,000 to my personal savings." "Good. But Kestra, this is about more than money. They have been lying to you and manipulating you for years. This prom thing is just the latest scam." She was right. The $10,000 prom request was not about giving Melody a magical night. It was about replenishing the account they had drained so they could continue their pattern of financial abuse. They had gotten careless and spent too much too quickly, leaving them without enough buffer for their next scheme. I spent the rest of the night going through old family group chats and text messages with new eyes. Every time they had asked for my opinion on family decisions, they had already made the choices and spent the money. Every time they had thanked me for being such a generous sister and daughter, they had been taking my money without permission. The guilt trips about family loyalty and supporting each other were especially galling in hindsight. I had been supporting them. I had been loyal. I had been generous to the point of financial stupidity. They had taken advantage of my love for them and used it to fund their lifestyle upgrades while keeping me in the dark. At 6 in the morning, I was standing outside my bank when they opened. The manager, Mrs. Patterson, had helped me set up the joint account years ago and remembered me well. "I need to close the joint family savings account and transfer all remaining funds to my personal account," I told her directly. "Of course, dear. Is everything all right? You seem upset." I discovered that the other account holders have been making unauthorized withdrawals for years. "I want to close it immediately and remove my name from any future access." Mrs. Patterson's expression shifted to professional concern. "I understand completely. Let me pull up the account history so we can document everything properly. If there has been financial abuse, we need to make sure you are protected going forward." The phrase financial abuse hit me like a physical blow. That was what this was. Not family disagreements about money or different spending priorities. Financial abuse. Systematic theft disguised as family unity. As Mrs. Patterson processed the account closure, she explained my options. "The remaining balance will be transferred to your personal savings immediately. I am also going to flag this account closure with a note about unauthorized withdrawals so that if anyone tries to claim fraud or disputes the closure, we have documentation of your concerns." When the transfer was complete, I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with grief. I was protecting my money, but I was also acknowledging that my relationship with my family would never be the same. They had shown me exactly how much they valued me as a source of funds, nothing more. My phone had been buzzing constantly while I was at the bank. 17 missed calls from Mom, 12 from Dad, and 23 text messages in the family group chat demanding to know why I was not responding to their reasonable request for prom funding. I decided to respond to the group chat with complete honesty. I closed our joint savings account this morning and transferred the remaining $12,000 to my personal account. I have discovered that $38,000 has been withdrawn from this account over the past several years for expenses I never approved and trips I was not included in. The $10,000 prom request was apparently meant to reimburse money you have already spent using funds I contributed in good faith for family emergencies. I attached screenshots of the most egregious transactions and continued. I will not be contributing any money toward prom expenses or any other family expenses going forward. If you need to discuss anything with me, you can call me directly instead of using guilt trips and group manipulation tactics. Then I muted the group chat notifications and waited for the explosion I knew was coming. The individual calls started within minutes, but I was ready for them this time. I had documentation, I had protected my money, and I had finally seen my family's true priorities clearly. The strategic advantage was mine now, and I intended to use it. The explosion was immediate and spectacular. Within an hour of posting the bank statements in the family group chat, my phone became a weapon of emotional warfare. Mom called first, and I could hear Dad shouting in the background before she even spoke. "How dare you embarrass us in front of the entire family? Those bank statements are private family business, and you had no right to share them." "Private family business? Mom, it is my money that disappeared from that account. I had every right to know where it went, and apparently screenshots were the only way to get honest answers. You are being vindictive and cruel. Your sister is devastated. She has been crying for hours because her selfish sister decided to ruin her prom over a few dollars." "A few dollars? Mom, they took $38,000 from that account without telling me. That is not a few dollars. That is theft." "It is not theft. It is family money. We have all contributed to that account." This was where I had done my homework. "Actually, Mom, I pulled a complete transaction history. In 8 years, you contributed a total of $3,200. Dad contributed $2,700. I contributed $48,000. So no, it was not family money. It was my money that I put into a shared account because I trusted you." The silence on the other end told me she had not expected me to have those numbers ready. Dad took the phone. "Kestra, you are completely out of line. Families share resources and help each other. Just because you kept track of every penny does not mean you own everything in that account." "Dad, I kept track because that is what responsible adults do with their money. And you are right that families help each other. But help goes both ways. When did you ever ask me what I needed? When did you ever consider my financial goals or dreams? When did you ever include me in decisions about how to spend the money I was contributing? We did not think we needed to ask permission to use family funds for family activities. Family activities that I was not invited to. Family trips I could not attend because of work, that you then upgraded using money I contributed. Dad, you used our joint savings to pay for Melody's college fund without telling me, while I have been applying for loans to cover my own graduate school costs." That stopped him cold. He had not known I was aware of the college fund transfers. "How did you find out about that?" "It is all in the bank statements, Dad. Every transaction, every transfer, every withdrawal. 3 years of $200 monthly transfers to Melody College Fund while I have been taking out student loans because I thought we were saving that money for emergencies." The call ended abruptly. Apparently, being confronted with documented proof of their financial deception was too uncomfortable to continue. But the really interesting response came from my extended family. Within hours, I started getting private messages from aunts, uncles, and cousins who had initially backed my parents in the group chat. The tone was completely different in private. My Aunt Linda was the first to reach out directly. "Kestra, honey, I had no idea about the bank account situation when I commented in the group chat. After seeing those statements, I owe you an apology. What they did was wrong, and you have every right to protect your money." My cousin Marcus was more direct. "Holy shit, Kestra. I did not know your parents were pulling this kind of stuff. My mom told me I should stay out of it, but this looks like straight-up financial abuse. Are you okay?" The most surprising message came from my Uncle Tom, Dad's brother. I need to tell you something about your father and money. This is not the first time he has done something like this. He borrowed $15,000 from me 5 years ago for a family emergency and never paid it back. When I asked about it later, he said it was for investments that did not pan out. Now I am wondering if it was for family trips and spending sprees. That conversation with Uncle Tom opened a floodgate of family financial history I had never known about. Dad had borrowed money from multiple family members over the years, always with emotional stories about temporary hardships or investment opportunities. None of it had ever been paid back. None of the emergencies had been real. Your Aunt Sarah lost $8,000 to him 3 years ago, Uncle Tom continued. He said it was for emergency medical bills for your mother. But your mother was never sick, was she? She had not been. 3 years ago, my parents had gone to Hawaii for their anniversary. A trip that had coincided perfectly with the timeframe of the supposed medical emergency. I was starting to understand that the joint savings account was just one piece of a much larger pattern of financial manipulation. My parents had been running elaborate long-term cons on everyone who loved them, using family loyalty as cover for systematic theft. But the most valuable information came from an unexpected source. Melody herself. She called me that evening, and for the first time in the conversation, she sounded genuinely upset rather than performatively dramatic. Kestra, I need to talk to you about the prom thing. But not on the family chat. Can we talk privately? Sure, Melody. What is going on? I never asked for $10,000 for prom. I asked Mom and Dad for help finding a dress and maybe getting my hair done professionally. They are the ones who came up with this whole elaborate plan with the yacht and the custom dress and everything else. My stomach dropped. What do you mean you never asked for it? I mean, I had no idea they were planning to ask you for $10,000 until after you said no and they started freaking out. I was confused because I had never asked for anywhere near that much money. When I asked them about it, they said you were being selfish and that you had always been jealous of me getting attention from them. Melody, are you saying they made up the $10,000 budget without asking you? Not just made it up. Kestra, they already bought all that stuff. The dress, the limo reservation, all of it. They told me it was an early graduation gift, and that you had agreed to help pay for it as my college-bound big sister. I thought you were on board with everything until yesterday when you said no. The manipulation was even deeper than I had realized. They had not only spent money from our joint account on Melody's prom without permission, they had then tried to get me to reimburse them by making it seem like I was the cruel sister who would not support my siblings' dreams. Melody, did you know about the college fund they have been building for you with money from our joint savings account? What college fund? Kestra, I do not have any college savings. Mom and Dad told me I would need to take out loans because the family could not afford to help with college expenses. The breathtaking scope of the lie was stunning. They had been taking money from our joint account to fund Melody's college expenses while telling her no college fund existed and she would need loans. They were stealing from both of us simultaneously. Melody, we need to meet in person. There are things you need to know about our parents and money that are going to be hard to hear. Are they really as bad as those bank statements made them look? They are worse. And I think they have been lying to both of us about each other for years. I was no longer dealing with a simple family disagreement about prom expenses. I was uncovering a systematic pattern of financial abuse and emotional manipulation that had been damaging family relationships for years. My parents had positioned me and Melody against each other while stealing from both of us. But now Melody knew the truth. Uncle Tom knew the truth. Several cousins and aunts were starting to see the patterns. The family group chat that had been used to coordinate attacks on me was becoming a liability for my parents as more people reviewed the evidence and started comparing stories. The strategic advantage was shifting, and I intended to press it further. Because if they had been doing this to me for 8 years, and to Uncle Tom and Aunt Sarah and who knows how many others, then it was time for the entire family to understand exactly who my parents really were when it came to money and manipulation. The takedown was going to be thorough, documented, and absolutely devastating. The family reunion was scheduled for the following weekend, a monthly gathering that had been a tradition for over a decade. Normally, I would have dreaded facing everyone after the group chat explosion, but this time I was looking forward to it. I had spent the week preparing a presentation that would expose the full scope of my parents' financial manipulation. Melody and I met for coffee on Thursday to coordinate our approach. She had been digging through her own records and discovered even more lies. "Kestra, remember when they told me you refused to help pay for my SAT prep classes? They said you thought it was a waste of money and that I should study on my own. I never even knew you were taking SAT prep classes. They never asked me about it. I know that now. And remember when they said you were too busy with work to come to my graduation party planning meetings? They told me you said my graduation was not important enough to take time off for." My heart broke a little. "Melody, I was never invited to any planning meetings. I would have loved to help plan your graduation party." She showed me text messages between her and our parents from the past 2 years. Screenshot after screenshot of them telling her I was too selfish to help with various events, too jealous of her achievements to be supportive, too focused on my own career to care about family. Meanwhile, they had been telling me that Melody was spoiled and demanding, that she expected me to fund her lifestyle without appreciation. They had systematically poisoned our relationship with lies while stealing from both of us. "So what is the plan for Sunday?" Melody asked. "I am going to present the evidence to everyone at once. Uncle Tom is bringing his documentation about the money Dad borrowed from him. Aunt Sarah is bringing hers. We are going to lay out the complete pattern of financial abuse so that everyone understands this is not about prom money or family disagreements. This is about fraud. Are you nervous?" "No. I am angry. And angry me with documentation is a force of nature." Sunday arrived with typical family reunion chaos. Cousins running around, aunts bringing too much food, uncles arguing about football. I waited until after lunch when everyone was settled and relaxed. Then I stood up and asked for everyone's attention. "I need to share some information about our family finances that affects all of us." Mom immediately tried to shut me down. "Kestra, this is not the time or place for your drama. We are here to enjoy family time." "Actually, Mom, this is exactly the right time and place. Because what I am about to share affects everyone in this room." I had prepared a simple presentation on my laptop, connected to the big screen TV in the family room. The first slide was titled 8 Years of Financial Manipulation, a Family Case Study. Over the past 8 years, I contributed $48,000 to a joint family savings account. As of last week, $12,000 remained. Today I am going to show you exactly where that money went, and more importantly, I am going to show you a pattern of financial manipulation that has affected multiple family members. Dad stood up aggressively. "This is inappropriate and vindictive. You are trying to embarrass us over family financial matters that are none of anyone else's business." Uncle Tom spoke up from the back of the room. "Actually, Frank, I think it is our business. Especially if it explains why you never paid back the $15,000 you borrowed from me." The room went completely silent. Aunt Sarah shifted uncomfortably in her chair. Several cousins looked confused but interested. I clicked to the next slide, which showed a timeline of withdrawals from our joint account alongside major family events. June 2020, $3,000 withdrawal for family emergency. Actual use, Alaska cruise upgrades. August 2020, $2,000 withdrawal for home repairs. Actual use, Napa Valley anniversary trip. December 2020, $5,000 withdrawal for medical expenses. Actual use, Hawaii vacation. Click. Next slide. But the cruise, Napa trip, and Hawaii vacation were all family events that I was not included in. I was told I was too busy with work to join, while my money was being used to upgrade experiences I was not invited to share. Melody stood up beside me. And I was told that Kester refused to help pay for my SAT classes, my graduation party planning, and my college preparation because she thought I was spoiled and demanding. But she was never asked to help with any of those things. Click. Next slide. This is the real pattern. For years, my parents have been taking money from our joint account for expenses they categorized as family emergencies or shared costs. But they have also been lying to Melody and me about each other, telling each of us that the other person was selfish, unsupportive, and unwilling to help with family needs. I looked directly at my parents, who had gone pale and were whispering frantically to each other. The $10,000 prom request was not about prom. The prom expenses had already been paid for using money from our joint account. The request was an attempt to get me to reimburse them for money they had already spent, while making it appear that I was the cruel sister who would not support Melody's dreams. Uncle Tom stood up with a folder of papers. Since we are sharing documentation, I brought copies of the loan agreement Frank signed when he borrowed $15,000 from me for emergency medical bills for Linda. Medical bills that never existed for an illness that never happened. Aunt Sarah reluctantly raised her hand. He borrowed $8,000 from me the same year for temporary cash flow problems with his business. Problems that turned out to be a vacation fund shortfall. Cousin Jennifer looked shocked. Wait, are you saying Uncle Frank has been borrowing money from everyone and never paying it back? Not borrowing, I corrected. Stealing. Using emotional manipulation and family loyalty to commit fraud. Mom finally found her voice, but it came out shaky and desperate. This is all being taken out of context. We never meant to hurt anyone. Family finances are complicated, and sometimes you have to make difficult decisions about shared resources. Shared resources? Melody's voice was sharp with betrayal. You told me I would need student loans for college because we could not afford family contributions to my education. But you have been taking money from Kestra to build me a college fund and never told either of us. You stole from her while lying to me about why I could not get family help. The room was completely silent except for the sound of papers rustling as Uncle Tom and Aunt Sarah organized their loan documentation. My cousin David, who had always been close to my parents, looked stunned. Uncle Frank, Aunt Linda, is this true? Have you been taking money from family members under false pretenses for years? Dad's response was to attack. This is a coordinated assault on our family unity by ungrateful children who do not understand sacrifice and family loyalty. We have given everything to our daughters, and this is how they repay us. But the documented evidence was overwhelming, and the pattern was clear to everyone in the room. Multiple family members comparing stories, bank statements, loan agreements, and years of lies all pointed to the same conclusion. My parents were financial predators who had been using family love as cover for systematic theft. The silence that followed Dad's accusation of ingratitude stretched for what felt like an eternity. Then Aunt Sarah stood up, her voice quiet but firm. Frank, I loved Mom more than anything in the world. When she was dying, you came to me crying, saying you needed $8,000 for experimental treatments that might save her life. I emptied my savings account because I would have done anything to keep our mother alive for even one more day. She died 3 weeks later, and I found out from the hospice nurse that there never were any experimental treatments. She had been in comfort care the entire time. The room went dead silent. Our grandmother's death had been devastating for the entire family, but none of us had known about the supposed experimental treatments. Aunt Sarah's voice broke. You used my grief and love for our dying mother to steal $8,000 so you could afford your Hawaii anniversary trip. While I was mourning and struggling financially because I had given you everything I had, you were posting vacation photos on Facebook. The collective intake of breath from 20 family members was audible. Several people began whispering, and I saw my cousin Mark wiping tears from his eyes. Uncle Tom's voice was steady but filled with controlled rage. And the $15,000 you took from me? You said Linda had been diagnosed with early-stage cancer and needed immediate treatment that insurance would not cover. You showed me what looked like medical bills. I liquidated part of my retirement account to help my sister-in-law fight cancer. Cancer that never existed. Mom tried to interrupt. There were some irregular test results that scared us, and we thought. Linda, stop. Uncle Tom held up his hand. I called your doctor's office 6 months later to ask about follow-up treatments because I cared about your health. They had no record of any cancer diagnosis, any irregular test results, or any treatments related to cancer. Nothing. You lied about having cancer to steal my retirement money. The room exploded into chaos. Cousins were demanding explanations, aunts were crying, uncles were shouting over each other. In the middle of it all, my parents sat frozen, finally understanding that their web of lies had completely unraveled. My cousin Rebecca, who had always been the family peacekeeper, stood up with tears streaming down her face. How many of us have you lied to? How many family emergencies were fake? How many times have you used our love for each other to manipulate us into giving you money? Melody was sobbing next to me, and I put my arm around her shoulders. I am so sorry, she whispered. I had no idea they were doing this to everyone. I thought you really did not want to help with my prom, and I thought they were just trying to give me a special night. This is not your fault, I told her firmly. You were manipulated just as much as the rest of us. Maybe more, because you live with them. Cousin David, who worked as a paralegal, had been taking notes throughout the presentation. Uncle Frank, Aunt Linda, what you have described here constitutes wire fraud, elderly abuse in the case of Grandma's situation, and potentially multiple other criminal violations. The pattern of using false emergencies to obtain money under false pretenses is textbook fraud. Dad's face went from pale to gray. Now wait just a minute. This is family business. No one is talking about involving law enforcement in family matters. Actually, Uncle Tom said grimly, I have been talking to a lawyer about my options for recovering the $15,000 you stole from me. After today, I am definitely moving forward with legal action. Aunt Sarah nodded. The $8,000 you took while Mom was dying was the last money I had. I have been struggling financially ever since, and I need that money back. If legal action is what it takes, then that is what I will do. The family gathering devolved into smaller groups of people comparing stories and discovering additional lies. It turned out that my parents had been running variations of the same scams on different family members for over a decade. Emergency medical bills, temporary business cash flow problems, unexpected home repairs, investment opportunities that required quick cash injections, all fake, all designed to extract money using family loyalty as leverage. My cousin Jennifer discovered that the family emergency fund my parents had been collecting money for during various holidays was completely fictitious. There was no emergency fund. The money had been going directly into their personal vacation budget. Cousin Mark realized that the family investment opportunity that had cost him $3,000 2 years earlier was actually funding for my parents' kitchen renovation. An investment that was supposed to return his money with interest within 6 months had been a complete fabrication. By the end of the afternoon, we had documented over $100,000 in fraudulent loans and fake emergencies spanning 8 years. Multiple family members were talking about legal action, and everyone was questioning every financial interaction they had ever had with my parents. Mom made one last desperate attempt at emotional manipulation. I cannot believe our own family is turning against us like this. We made some mistakes with money management, but everything we did was to try to give our daughters the best life possible and to help family members when they needed support. Melody stood up, her voice stronger than I had ever heard it. Mom, you told Kestra I was spoiled and demanding. You told me she was selfish and jealous. You used money that was meant to help me with college to pay for vacations I was not even included in. You made us hate each other while you stole from both of us. That is not giving us the best life possible. That is psychological abuse. The truth of her words hit everyone in the room. My parents had not just stolen money. They had systematically damaged family relationships with lies and manipulation, turning family members against each other to cover their tracks and deflect suspicion. As the family gathering broke up, people were forming new alliances and sharing contact information to coordinate legal responses. The family group chat that had been used to attack me just a week earlier was now being used to share lawyer recommendations and discuss collective action against my parents. Uncle Tom approached me as people were leaving. "Kestra, I owe you an apology. When this prom thing started, I thought you were being selfish with money. I had no idea you were actually the victim of financial abuse. Thank you for having the courage to expose this. A lot of us have been suffering in silence, thinking we were the only ones." Melody hugged me tightly as we prepared to leave. "I want to move out. I cannot live with them anymore, knowing what they are capable of. Can I stay with you while I figure out my options?" "Of course you can. We have a lot of lost time to make up for, and I want to help you with real college planning. Not the fake version they were pretending to do." As we drove away from what would be the last family reunion for a very long time, I felt a strange combination of grief and relief. I was mourning the parents I thought I had, while celebrating the sister I was finally getting to know without their lies standing between us. The immediate aftermath was devastating, but it was also the beginning of something honest and real. 6 months later, I was sitting in my apartment with Melody, helping her fill out college applications that she would actually be able to afford. The college fund our parents claimed did not exist had been real after all, but it was tied up in legal proceedings as part of the restitution process. The legal aftermath had been swift and comprehensive. Uncle Tom's lawyer had been interested enough in the pattern of fraud to take on a case that involved multiple victims and substantial documented evidence. Within 2 months, my parents were facing criminal charges for wire fraud and elder abuse related to the fake cancer diagnosis that had cost Uncle Tom his retirement savings. The civil suits were proceeding simultaneously. Aunt Sarah had recovered her $8,000 through a combination of asset seizure and garnished wages. Uncle Tom was getting his $15,000 back in monthly payments that would continue for the next 3 years. I had received full restitution for the $38,000 that had disappeared from our joint account, plus interest and legal fees. But the real victory was not the money. It was the family relationships that had been rebuilt once the lies were removed. Melody had moved in with me permanently after discovering that our parents had opened credit cards in her name and run up several $1,000s in debt that she knew nothing about. Living together had allowed us to develop the sister relationship that should have existed all along, without parental manipulation creating artificial conflicts between us. "I got my acceptance letter from State University," she announced, waving an envelope excitedly. "And with the financial aid package, it is completely affordable without any family contributions or massive student loans." "Melody, that is amazing. I am so proud of you for handling all the applications and financial aid paperwork yourself." She had grown up substantially in the months since the family explosion. Taking control of her own college planning, managing her own finances, and dealing with the emotional aftermath of learning that her parents were criminal fraudsters had forced her to mature quickly. But she had risen to the challenge with grace and determination. The extended family had rallied around both of us in ways that surprised me. Aunt Sarah had become a regular presence in our lives, cooking Sunday dinners and sharing stories about our grandmother that our parents had never told us. Uncle Tom had become Melody's unofficial college advisor, helping her navigate financial aid applications with the patience and care that our father should have provided. Cousin David had been instrumental in connecting us with support groups for victims of family financial abuse. It turned out that what we had experienced was more common than anyone wanted to acknowledge, and there were resources available to help families recover from systematic financial manipulation. The most unexpected support came from our maternal grandfather, who had been estranged from our family for years due to what we now understood were probably manufactured conflicts created by our parents. When he learned about the fraud and the lies that had kept him separated from his granddaughters, he reached out immediately. "Your grandmother left money for your education," he told us during our first visit to his house in over 5 years. Your parents told me you both refused to maintain a relationship with me, and they said you did not want any help from my side of the family. I have been heartbroken thinking my granddaughters hated me. More lies. More relationships damaged by systematic manipulation. But also more relationships that could be healed now that the truth was known. Melody was going to spend summers with Grandpa, learning about the family history that had been kept from us and helping him with his small business. I was planning to use some of the restitution money to take a vacation with him and Aunt Sarah to scatter Grandma's ashes in the place she had always wanted to visit but never got to see. The hardest part of the resolution was accepting that my parents were not the people I had believed them to be. The loving, supportive family dynamic I remembered from my childhood had been real in my experience, but it had been built on lies and maintained through manipulation. Learning to grieve for the parents I thought I had while protecting myself from the parents they actually were required ongoing therapy and constant boundary maintenance. They had reached out several times during the legal proceedings, always with new variations of the same manipulation tactics. Guilt trips about family loyalty, promises to change and make amends, accusations that I was destroying the family over money that did not matter in the bigger picture of love and relationships. But I had learned to recognize manipulation when I saw it, and I had built a support system of people who helped me stay grounded in reality when the emotional pressure became intense. The prom had happened, by the way. Melody had worn a beautiful $200 dress from a local boutique, had her hair done by a friend who was studying cosmetology, and shared a limo with 3 other couples to split the cost. She looked absolutely stunning, had an amazing time, and spent less than $600 total. It was perfect, she told me afterward. I felt beautiful and special, and I was not stressed about money or feeling guilty about expensive things I did not really need. It was actually better than the $10,000 version would have been. She had learned the lesson that took me years to understand. Experiences are meaningful because of the people you share them with and the joy you create together, not because of how much money you spend creating them. As I looked around my apartment, watching Melody work on scholarship applications while video chatting with Grandpa about her summer plans, I realized that I had something I had never had before. A family built on honesty, mutual support, and genuine love instead of manipulation and financial exploitation. It had cost me a relationship with my parents, but it had given me back my sister, my grandfather, my aunts and uncles, and most importantly, my sense of self-worth and financial security. The family group chat still existed, but it was completely different now. Instead of coordinated attacks and guilt trips, it was used to share legitimate updates about everyone's lives, coordinate actual family gatherings that my parents were not invited to, and offer real support during difficult times. For anyone watching this who has experienced financial manipulation from family members, I want you to know that protecting your money and demanding honesty is not selfish or cruel. Family love should not require you to ignore abuse or enable destructive behavior. Real family supports your success and respects your boundaries, even when it is inconvenient for them. Have you ever experienced financial manipulation from family members who used guilt and loyalty to pressure you into questionable money decisions? What would you have done if you discovered your family had been systematically stealing from you while manipulating your relationships with other family members? Share your thoughts in the comments below because these stories need to be told to help other people recognize manipulation before it destroys their financial security and family relationships. Like this video if my story helped you understand financial abuse better, and subscribe for more real-life stories about family drama, personal growth, and standing up for yourself when the people closest to you try to take advantage of your love. Thank you for watching my journey from financial victim to empowered family member, and remember that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable destructive behavior, even when it comes from people you love deeply. May you all find the courage to protect your peace and build relationships based on honesty and mutual respect.